Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo. We'll just start off with the fact that this card wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Originally I thought this was kind of a dud card, and it turned out to be a really good pay-per-view. A really, really nice pay-per-view. And, there's some people to thank for that. But what this show is for is we start off with the robberies. And there's only one robbery. Okay? And we'll just go straight into it. It's Williams versus Bedoya. Okay? Williams versus Bedoya. Massive injustice. I mean, we see these type of robberies from time to time where, I'm just going to keep bringing it. Brzezinski versus Budai, where essentially one fighter just cleanly outstrikes the other, but the other is very active, and so for some reason the judges just look at it differently, and by the judges I mean two judges, right, out of the three, somehow think, oh, you know what, the other guy being wild and unorganized and missing most of his shots is the guy who just somehow won the fight. Wrong. Budai versus Brzezinski is a perfect example. Roundtree versus Jacoby is a very recent example. And then, or those are the two that come to mind at least. And then we now have a new example to throw in there because that's what we want to talk about. I would love to just come here every week and just go, hello, welcome to Injustice For All MMA, blah, 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 and just be like, yeah, there's nothing to talk about. Boom, and just end it. But for some reason, we have to keep adding on fights where people legit get robbed. Like, it's a serious thing. And a part of me feels like maybe if Bedoya wasn't as excited to be landing on Williams, maybe somehow, I don't like to... there's always this thing in judging where the commentators are always like, oh man, it's good that after that close round he put his hands up, as if that's what changes the judges' minds. I don't think that's the case. I don't think a fighter being like, oh, that didn't touch me there, or that didn't land there, I don't think that really influences the judges. But sometimes your head just goes into a section where it's like, okay, look, if that guy is clearly winning, right, from my perspective, what are you looking at to where you feel as though he didn't win the fight? Let's go straight into it. So it's Williams versus Bedoya. I had this 30-27. 30-27 to Bedoya. This ended in a split decision. And I put a close marker on the second round. You can argue, at the very least, a 29-28 for Bedoya. At the very least. It's a 30-27 on my scorecard for Bedoya. I'll explain. 29-28 for Bedoya at the very least. We'll go to the first round. Bedoya outstrikes Williams. So they're kind of landing both on each other, kind of trading shots. And then Bedoya starts to pull away in the sense that he's landing on Williams and slipping a lot of Williams' wild shots. Williams is just... whiffing isn't the right word. He's slinging unorganized shots. I don't know if he trains. I'm not trying to be a dickhead. I don't know if he trains with Jamal Hill, but if he doesn't, he needs to, because I always had this feeling, and before the fight started, I swear to God I said this. I swear. I'm not even lying. I said the one thing that's weird about Williams, I remember when I first recognized Williams, that first fight he had at the Apex where he knocked out the guy and everyone was like, oh shit, he's crazy. The look mixed in with the knockout, you're like, oh, this guy's on the rise. And then there was a fight he had with Semmelsberger, and if I remember correctly, I think he beat Semmelsberger, if I can remember correctly. He beat Semmelsberger, but when I was watching the whole thing, I was like, you know what's funny about this fight is that his strikes look off. They look weird. They look wonky. They look like Give me a moment. They look like, I'm gonna find it because I don't want this to go unheard. They look like a fighter we saw. They look like the fighter from France, Gomez or Gomes. I think it's Gomez. Gomes is how you probably pronounce it. The French fighter in France that fought on the undercard for the French card this year or last year, and where he fought so wonky. His strikes were just so wonky. He won the fight, but his strikes were just so wonky to where you're just like, who the fuck is this guy? And then later in the fight he had at the Apex for the Pavlovich versus Blades fight, Gomes, I'm just gonna say Gomes. I'm gonna say Gomez. Gomez then, the backstory was, oh, you know what? He had like an eye issue, and so when maybe that's why he looked weird. And I always take that with a grain of salt in the sense that, when fighters try and PR spin their L, PR spin their W, I always take that with a grain of salt. And then he comes out and he looks a lot more organized than what we saw him the first time. So in my head, I'm just thinking, okay, to make this all make sense, the initial time we saw Gomez's strikes, that reminds me of how Chaos Williams strikes. Very unorganized, very wonky, very awkward. Just awkward strikes. Not awkward in the sense of like, I have a different type of style. Like Ferguson or Bobby Green, right? People that have unique styles, right? Unique styles is different from an awkward style where your arms just move in a different, weird kind of way. Back to this fight, though. That's what happened in the first round, where once Bedoya was landing strikes consistently on Williams was landing occasionally, but missing a lot of his shots. And not only missing a lot of his shots, but Bedoya was then evading a lot of them. And he outstruck him clearly in that round. We go to the second round, where it's close on the feet. They're actually kind of trading shots now. They're trading shots. And Williams, again, is doing his weird herky-jerky kind of movement, where it's occasionally landing, but they're awkward shots, so it doesn't look pleasant. But still, the strikes are pretty even at that point. And by the end of the round, Bedoya still outstrikes him by a few strikes and that. And it's so few. The strikes are so few that it's too close to call in a way, to where you just have to go, he didn't win this round convincingly enough. You put a close marker on it and you move on. Cool. You go to the third round, where the third round reflects the first round. Bedoya outstrikes Williams again. It's the same thing, where Williams is bulldozing into Bedoya and throwing everything, and half of it is missing, and Bedoya is just outstriking him. It's the same thing as the first, just a lot more action, maybe a lot more movement. Same thing. This same style of fighting continues to, the judges just, no matter where we go, no matter where we fucking go, and I'm assuming it's the same crop of judges, but regardless of that point, it just seems to be that every time this bullshit of style of like, there's one, it's almost as though, and this is just me thinking out loud, it's almost as though the one judge that's scoring this for Brzezinski, Jacoby, and Bedoya are the only ones who can see clean, straight, mostly landing shots. Shots that are landing clearly, cleanly, and effectively. It makes really no sense. It's almost like they're sitting there and they're like, oh shit, they're like, he's winning, he's legit, right? And the other two are just like, oh, okay, this is kind of close, but the other guy's like just swinging shit and landing occasionally and missing a lot and throwing a lot of volume, but missing a lot. That seems to be the counter. Is they're mixing in volume with effective striking, and that's what's ticking me off here. So we go to the judges, because we'll just need to move on. We just need to move on from this. We go to the judges. Mike Bell, he gives the first two rounds to Williams. Insane. That's insane. And then he gives the third round to Bedoya. That's the correct round he gave to Bedoya, but he gives the first two to Williams. That's madness. Williams was outstruck in the first. I don't know how you even... Okay. Same thing with Dominic Corelli. His scorecard reflects Mike Bell. And then Derek Clearly, a judge that I guess is wonky at times, but gives all three rounds, the correct scorecard, gives all three rounds to Bedoya. It's almost like he's fucking watching the fight. It's insane. Got it. Boom. Okay, sure. It's nuts to me. It's nuts to me. This shit's gonna keep happening of just fighters who are... Not, the word isn't even fighting correctly, because yes, there is a correct way to fight, but like I said, there are many unique ways to fight. It's almost as though two judges can't see clean strikes land. It's crazy. It's crazy. You go. That was the only injustice. That was the only robbery, pure robbery on the card. We go to honorable mentions. Next honorable mention, the first honorable mention is Rodriguez versus Jandiroba. At this 29-28 for Jandiroba. I gave her the first two rounds, and then the last round I gave to Rodriguez. You go to the very first round, okay? Jandiroba had a takedown, ground and pound, pretty much for essentially, I want to say for a big bulk of the round. Pretty much nothing on the feet. Rodriguez was very active on the ground, but Jandiroba did enough to where she wasn't going to steal, to where Rodriguez wasn't going to steal this round. You go to the second round. Jandiroba also had a takedown, this time for like 3 minutes, for like 3+ minutes. Takedown, ground and pound. Again, Rodriguez was very active on the bottom, but not active enough to take these rounds, right? That's the good thing about this, right? I love this. If you listen to all the old videos, I remember during the pandemic times, there would be fighters who would take people down and just sit on them and lose, and then would be like, what the fuck, I did it. Like, she was active enough too, to where, yeah, she was getting hit in the head a lot, yeah, Rodriguez was very active, but she was doing enough work to keep the round, essentially, to maintain the fact that she won the round. Not, yeah. You go to the third round, and this is where the honorable mentions come in. The third round, Jandiroba had a takedown, with very little ground and pound, a slight submission attempt, nothing really there. Not very little ground and pound, but decent ground and pound. This is the round where Rodriguez was very active on the ground. There were two instances where she had massive amounts of ground and pound from her back that were very effective. Not just the up kicks that landed occasionally that landed a lot and flush on Jandiroba. But that, coupled with the fact that she was well more active than Jandiroba. Rodriguez outstruck her enough to not even steal. The round belongs. Like, if that round was in any round, that round belongs to Rodriguez. Plain and simple. And then you go to the judges' scorecards. All right, where Mike Bell, his scorecard reflects mine. Dominic Corelli, his scorecard reflects mine. And then Maymuna Quirdo has a 30-27. That person gives the third round. First two rounds he gives to Jandiroba, and then the third round gives to Jandiroba as well. Nonsense. That's a stupid card. Honorable mention to my Manua. All right, we go to the next honorable mention. We got Evloev. We'll go Evloev. Evloev versus Lopes. I think it's Lopez, but I think his name is Lopes. I'm gonna say Lopez, but maybe it's just spelled differently. Evloev versus Lopez. And this 30-27. This is a 30-27, but this is one of those things where the grappling judges like to be cute. It's stupid, but whatever. It's 30-27 to Evloev. First round, Evloev had a takedown with ground and pound for 3+ minutes. All right. And then in between the bits of the takedown and the ground and pound, Lopes had a submission attempt. All right. He had a submission attempt. He was very active on the bottom. He was very active, annoyingly active on the bottom, but not enough to deter or change what was being done by Evloev. And also he was outstruck on the feet as well. Oh no, I'm sorry. He outstruck Evloev on the feet. But it wasn't a lot. It wasn't by a lot. It was very few. The strikes that were given to Lopes on the ground kind of eliminated what was done on the feet. He had the submission attempt, nothing, and all the work that Evloev did on the ground wins him the first round. You go to the second round, where Evloev gets another takedown with ground and pound for about 2+ minutes this time. All right, really takes control of this round, and he outstrikes Lopes on the feet. And then we go to the third round, where Lopes had 2 legit submission attempts. One of them was, I believe, an armbar. The other was a leg lock, basically like the Muhammad Makayev submission, except this one wasn't like full extension. It was extended, but it wasn't. But for some reason, Evloev was just like he had enough room to where he was just like, no, it's not in. Like he shook his head, and then he swam out of it. So there was that. But minus those two submission attempts, Evloev outstruck Lopes on the feet. He had a takedown, a lot of ground and pound, a lot of clinch strikes. That's well enough to win him this round. Those two submission attempts don't win you this round. There's something funny about this is that, yeah, he had 2 submission attempts, Lopes, but if you place this in the first or the second round, he doesn't win this round either. It's insane how, because it's the third round, we just suddenly go, you know what, we'll just toss him around to make this look cleaner. No. You go to the judges' scorecards. And David Torelli, his scorecard reflects mine, 30-27 for Evloev. You have Eric Colon, Goofy, honorable mention to Eric Colon. First 2 rounds he gives to Evloev, last round he gives to Lopes. And then, again, Derek clearly, he gives the first round to Lopes. That one doesn't even make sense. He gives the first round to Lopes. I guess it's because of all the crowd and the action and whatever. He gives the first round to Lopes and the last 2 rounds to Evloev. Honorable mention there to Derek Cleary. Next honorable mention. This was the number 1 contender fight, Muhammad versus Burns. Okay, I had this 49. I had this 49-46. I had this 49-46. First round I gave to Muhammad. Second round I gave to Burns. The rest of the rounds I gave to Muhammad. Clear 49-46. In the first round, Burns had a takedown. It was a very quick takedown. He took him down. Muhammad kind of gets back up pretty immediately. Burns did nothing with the takedown really, and Muhammad outstruck and dropped Bilal in that first round. I'm sorry, Muhammad outstruck. My notes are weird. Muhammad outstruck and dropped Burns in that first round. You go to the second round. Okay, Burns outstruck Muhammad. I'm surprised no judge scored this round for Muhammad. It's weird it's weird. It's almost like no one's counting strikes. It's almost like they're just following the ebb and flow of fights, which is nasty. And I don't trust the UFC strike numbers. Despite the fact that Muhammad was going forward pretty much for all 5 rounds, Burns still outstruck Muhammad, most, again, with leg kicks and body kicks and things like that. Burns most definitely outstruck Muhammad in that second round. You go to the third round, Muhammad outstruck Burns. Fourth round, Muhammad outstruck Burns. Fifth round, Muhammad outstruck Burns. Boom. There you have it. You go to the judges' scorecards, and Mike Bell gives all 5 rounds to Muhammad. Honorable mention, I disagree. Second round goes to Burns. Honorable mention there to Mike Bell. You go to Derek Cleary. This one's goofy. He gives the second round to Muhammad, honorable mention, and then he gives the fourth round to Burns. I'm looking at that fourth round. Nonsense. He gets outstruck pretty well. Burns does. Honorable mention there to Derek Cleary. And then same thing, Eric Colon. He gives the fifth round to Burns. It's almost like these guys just tossed in like a cookie, like, oh, okay, we don't want to make it look bad. What? Gives the fifth round to Burns. Honorable mention there to Eric Colon. Crazy. And then the last honorable mention, this fight ended in a split decision. Sterling versus Cejudo. I had this 48-47 for Sterling with a close marker on the third round. Okay, close marker on the third round. 48-47 Sterling. This fight, you can argue in either direction, and it's only by one round. There's a lot of people online who are just giving all the weird, goofy rounds and whatever. No. There's only one round in question of what is on how you switch it. It again reminds me of the Sterling versus Yan fight, where the round in question is round number one. That's the only round in question, is round number one. And in the moment, you're just like, in that moment of that fight, everyone was like, oh, Yan won, and then you rewatch it, and then Aljo won. In this fight, it's not the same thing. It's pretty clear. I think it's just a difference in the fight is pretty segmented in that third round, but we'll go through it. The only this is the definite round. Okay, I can argue with anyone on this. This is the definite rounds. First round goes to Sterling. Second round goes to Cejudo. It's clear. Those two are clear. Anyone that has it any different is goofy. And then you go to the fourth and fifth round. Fifth round is Sterling. Fourth round is Sterling. Fifth round is Cejudo. Third round, I put a close marker and I scored it for Sterling. We're going to go down the list. First round. Okay? First round, both guys had a takedown. Sterling outstruck Cejudo on the feet, and by the end of and it also helped that by the end of the round, Sterling had gotten a takedown and kind of had a few strikes down there, and that kind of helped him. That kind of solidified the round. That kind of edged the round towards his favor. That's pretty clear. You go to the second round, close on strikes. It's actually close on strikes, but Cejudo edged him out. Had a few more strikes than Cejudo did. He won that round. That's for certain. You go to the third round, and this is the round in question. Sterling outstrikes Cejudo on the feet barely. It's by a couple strikes. Maybe 2 to 3 strikes at the most, right? Cejudo gets a takedown, but he does nothing. He just gets the takedown. So we're in the situation where Cejudo gets a takedown, but he was outstruck on the feet. But Cejudo did nothing with the takedown in the sense that when they get taken down, Cejudo, is striking down there, and then Aljamain is striking. So it's not as though he landed, he postured up and landed decent ground and pound, or it was a body head for a long amount of time. If that were the case, then most likely we'd probably lean that towards Cejudo. But Cejudo's getting outstruck on the feet, and then gets a last-minute takedown where Aljamain is in the whatever seconds that we're waning. Aljamain just spams a bunch of bottom strikes, and then Cejudo spams a bunch of body shots. Essentially, the takedown pretty much doesn't matter, and then what happened on the feet is what is relevant, and that goes to Sterling. You go to the fourth round. Sterling outstruck Cejudo, boom, and had a takedown. He had a takedown, and he outstruck him on the feet, and a little bit of ground and pound down there as well. Very little down there. And that round clearly goes to Sterling. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. And then the fifth round, that's I already saw the judges' scorecards, so that's why I'm sounding like this. Fifth round, Cejudo gets a takedown pretty much at the very end, right? We saw that. But he was also outstriking Sterling. But that was, again, that all leaned towards the very end. Up until the takedown, it was pretty close. It was maybe like 2-3 strikes Cejudo up on strikes, and then he gets the takedown, and then he adds on a little more there. We go to the judges' scorecards. we go to the judges' scorecards where they were on crack. I don't. Maybe they ate some New Jersey pizza. I don't fucking know. But Mike Bell, he gives first round to Sterling, second round to Cejudo. So far we're good. He gives the third round to Cejudo. Okay, I don't like it, but it's a close round. Boom, he gives it to Cejudo. Gives the fourth round to Sterling, and then he gives the fifth round to Cejudo. So far, Mike Bell has he has the most correct card, right? Based off of the close round in the third, boom. Then you go to Derek Leary. First round Sterling, second round Cejudo. So again, we have two judges that are on the same page in that. Okay, this is going to be the I Hate Eric Cologne scorecards show, because it's just I don't understand. I'm lost. I'm really lost on looking at his scorecards. But anyways, first round Sterling, second round Cejudo on the Derek Leary scorecard, and then in the third round, again he gives the third round to Cejudo. Gives the third round to Cejudo. So the takedown at the end seemed to be what fixed it for those guys, even though Aljamain was outstriking him. Whatever, that's cute. We'll just let that go. Gives the fourth round to Sterling. Then he gives the fifth round. He gives the fifth round to Aljamain. I mean, Aljamain was barely getting outstruck in that round, and then got taken down, and that solidified the round for Cejudo. Honorable mention there to Derek Leary. It makes no sense whatsoever. And he has it 48-47 for Sterling based off of that fifth round. Nonsense. Correct fighter won, in my opinion, but nonsense. And again, you can argue it for Cejudo based off that third round, but still. Mike Bell had it 48-47 for Cejudo. And then Eric Cologne. First round Sterling, correct. Second round Sterling. There's a part of me that wants to go and say honorable mention for that, but I can't, because it is close on strikes. Again, but I disagree, because Cejudo still outstruck him. Barely, that it may be, but Cejudo still outstruck him. He gives the round to Cejudo. He gives the round to Aljamain. Whatever. Third round gives to Cejudo. I'm lost here. I mean, the closeness of what it was, he gives it to Aljamain in the second, and then the closeness of what it is in the whatever. Honorable mention there for the second round. Third round he gives third round he gives Cejudo, fourth round he gives Aljamain, fifth round he gives Cejudo. Boom, 48-47 Aljamain. The scorecards just look weird and wonky, but the right fighter, in my opinion, won. Quickly, Andrade versus Yan, incredible. Yan looked great. Knockout. I know it's a TKO, but I call it's a knockout. She knocked her out. Hopefully she gets the next title shot. I don't even know. I don't have the list in front of me. I don't even know who would be next up for the strawweight belt. I want to see her versus Zhang Weili. That'd be cool. Charles Jourdain versus Gracie. I love those type of fights. I know there's like a group maybe that hate those type of fights. The McKinsey-Dern test, right? How many people have done the McKinsey-Dern test? Right, where you have to fight specialists. I love that. I love how you do a fight camp to train for specialists. 2 people have done that in my head so far. And one person has got the bad end of the stick. It's, in Mackenzie-Dern's case, it was Marina Rodriguez, fight night. She wins. Amazing. I love shit like that. And then Jan Mackenzie-Dern, also another one, right? That one kind of ended. Some people think Mackenzie-Dern won. No. And then Tisha Torres, who should have gotten the nod, got robbed, in my opinion. But that's whatever. I love those stylistic matchups. Those are fun. In this case, it was Charles Jourdain versus Gracie, where basically he 27'd him, and he looked awesome, because basically Jourdain he's not underrated, but he's just awesome to watch, in the sense that he's really good at fighting, and you don't want to see him get spammed the way he did, where he got robbed against Burgos, and then he had to fight a shitty fight like this. You know, you hate to see when the fun fighters get shafted a little bit, you know? Like, Marina Rodriguez, in my opinion, has been shafted a couple times. In the sense that, yeah, she got over... Who did she fight? She got over Dern, and then immediately had to fight... I forgot who she had to fight. She had to fight some other person. I don't know if it was a grappler or not. I can't remember. I'm sorry off the top of my head. But fast forward, now she has to fight Jandiroba out of nowhere. And in my head, I was thinking she was going to... You know, it's something about that, right? It's like you fighting for a specialist is different from fighting Jandiroba, who's decent on... Who sets up her takedowns to where Rodriguez is like, what the fuck? Fuck, I'm ineffective now. And if only Mackenzie Dern learned to do that, she would be close to unstoppable. But she's not. So, you know, it's cool that that we get to see a fun fighter pass the Joe Silva gauntlet. I know Joe Silva's not there, but Joe Silva gauntlet of here's some weird goofy fighter that you have to fight in order for us to continue fucking with you. So that's cool. Sad for Phil Hawes. He lost to the Alec whatever. His movement. I feel like sometimes I watch these fights and I'm like, it feels slow motion the way they dodge and move. And during the broadcast they said it was the knee. He looked open at times. Boom, he gets knocked out. The Lopes Evloev fight was fun, given the fact that this was supposed to be Evloev versus Mitchell, and it turns into Evloev versus Lopes. And in everyone's book, this fight was supposed to be a wash, boring, probably a sub finish for Evloev. No, it turns out that Lopes was like, no, I'm good enough to like fuck you up. I'm good enough to not fuck you, but I'm good enough to really work and do some shit. So that was good. Dober versus Frevola. What the fuck is going on? That doesn't even matter. I'm lost. I'm so lost right now. None of this makes sense. This pay-per-view is fucking great. It was cool. I don't want to say great. I don't want to hype it up too much. It was weird in the sense that like Dober shouldn't have gotten knocked out by Frevola. This makes no fucking sense. Dude, MMA doesn't make sense. Frevola gets spammed by McKinney. McKinney gets spammed, but because it's on short notice, he gets spammed by Dober. Okay, so hold on. Let's do this real quick. I'm going overtime, but let me do this real quick. So Frevola gets starched by this makes no sense. Frevola gets starched by McKinney. McKinney gasses out against Dober. Frevola beats Ataman, who's supposed to be like a really good prospect, up and coming prospect, the guy who's supposed to probably crack the top 15 of lightweight. Cool. We're just like, in my head, I'm just like, okay, maybe this was just a moment. He then fights Dober. Dober goes on this mini run right after Riddell, right? He goes on like this mini run. Has a bit of a problem with I forgot the Brazilian guy, Alves. I think it was Alves. Then he fights Bobby Green. He's losing and then wins, comes back and wins. And then he fights Frevola, who, if we're just being honest, he's supposed to beat. And Frevola is on crack all of a sudden. So now Frevola's going to be in the top 15. It's wild. It's wild to me. Is there anything else to talk about? Nzchukwu, let him just get hit 50,000 times and cover up. No, that's not true, because he will get caught eventually if he keeps doing that. But he just comes back and wins. And then, Muhammad versus Burns. It's sad to see, because I really wanted Burns to win, but yeah, I mean, we're going to get Burns, and we're going to get Muhammad versus Edwards, Muhammad versus Colby. We'll see what happens. I'm I'm going overtime. That's all I have. Thank you for listening. If you stay this long, please subscribe. That would greatly help. If not, it's cool. We'll survive regardless. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.